And the president will arrive in Canada over the weekend for a meeting of the top 7 major industrial nations of the world. The president plans to place tariffs on the EU and Canada for aluminum and steel, is causing tensions ahead of the G7 summit. Canada and the European Union have threatened to strike back against the United States. So for more on this upcoming G7 summit, we're going now to our political panel for the evening. We have Vecchio, GOP strategist and attorney, and Robin Biro, Democratic strategist. Thanks for joining us, gentlemen. So the G7 summit is just a day out. This year it's scheduled in Quebec, in Canada. So America's closest allies all seem to have a bone to pick with President Trump. Canada and Germany in particular, none too happy with the president because of the Iran nuclear deal and these new steel and aluminum tariffs. Guys, how do you see these private talks going down when they're one-on-one? Robin, first over to you, and then Ken, I'll give you a chance to answer on the other side.
I really see Donald Trump being the proverbial bull in a china shop here, and it's a tough road ahead for him. But they've got an agenda of 5 items: inclusive economic growth, gender equality, world peace, jobs of the future, and climate change. So several of those are going to be really tough for Donald Trump because he's a climate change denier. So it's going to be really interesting to see how this plays out.
Ken, what are your thoughts on it?
I've disagreed with Robin in the past, and I'm going to disagree with Robin again. Too bad. Canada, for example, they stymie our agricultural efforts in sales of our goods in Canada. These other countries, they slap all kinds of regulations and taxes on our goods. It's time for us to do good for ourselves. And these high tariffs make sense. The United States government, we worked almost unilaterally off of tariffs. We had no taxes for a good 125 years. High tariffs are the way to sustain our economy. This is smart business by Donald Trump, a very successful businessman, now employing his views in politics. And as for the rest of the G7 summit, Donald Trump is right on every one of these issues. There's no proof that there's such a thing as global warming caused by man. Scientists disagree, and Trump is taking the assessments of all different people who are experts in the field of global warming, global cooling, and he's coming to the conclusion that we don't know whether or not it exists.
No matter where you stand on climate change or what have you, or whether you think he's doing right or wrong, the president his actions still appear to have somewhat alienated the U.S., at least from our allies right now, going into the G7. Trump is going to head into his very highly anticipated meeting with Kim Jong-un very soon. North Korea is paying very close attention to what's happening at the G7. So, Ken, since Trump is going into this as sort of the guy everyone is mad at, won't this put him at a disadvantage going into the Kim meeting because he'll look like a political outcast?
No, I don't think so at all. I believe that it's a lot of propaganda that people across the world are not buying into. And quite honestly, most Americans don't buy into this. The United States has just as strong allied relationships with all these countries that are going into the G7 meetings as they always have. Now, right now, Trudeau might be a little publicly apparently annoyed with Trump over the tariff issue. But Trudeau, he has to know, he's a decently smart guy, Trudeau. He has to know deep down that the tariffs that Trump has put forward are in the best interest of Americans. And all of this is going to work out. The United States is a self-sustaining country. We don't need other countries' goods. They need our products. And they're fortunate that we're only at the level of tariffs that we currently are, because if they don't open up the doors to us, it's going to become much worse for them, and rightfully so. Now, the meeting with North Korea, hey, this is absolutely brilliant. It's one of the best things that's happened in foreign policy in the history of the United States. No other president has ever been able to do this. And their little guy leader is right now very happy with our big guy leader. And what goes on in the G7 summit is not going to affect that at all.
Well, again, we'll have to wait for that meeting to happen, if it happens, because you never know. Robin, we can expect, though, Angela Merkel and Theresa May to really press Donald Trump on the Iran nuclear deal now that we know that Iran is openly enriching more uranium that is apparently, still in line with the JCPOA deal and the remaining nations that are in that deal. Robin, what do you think can come out of this talk from Germany and the UK? Because Trump is adamant about America being out of that deal as per his campaign promises.
Absolutely. And then not just that, they still have a chip on their shoulder about him pulling out of the Paris Climate Accord. So, you know, there's just so much to dissect here. And then with the tariffs, you just roll all of it in together. And then let's look back at Canada. He just apparently asked Justin Trudeau about about Canada burning down the U.S. Capitol all those years ago. Well, it turns out that was Britain. So, you know, this is embarrassing on a national level.
And Robin, I'm going to give you the last word. The U.S. is going to go into this. Does it look like the G7 is America first or America alone to you?
We're not a protectionist country. We're just looking out for our best interest here. And at the end of the day, these leaders are going to have a great powwow together. We're all allies, and we're going to come out of this with even greater strength, because that's the way Trump has been running this country.
And Robin, I'm going to give you that last word, too.
You know, one thing that they can all agree on, they're all going to love talking about the media, because that's one thing they do love to do, is it's the Lonely Hearts Club for these leaders. So they get to bash the media.
I think you can both agree there. Thanks so much for joining us this evening, Kendall Vecchio and Robin Biro.